Hi and welcome to the table. My name's Steve Raine.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I'm Mark Windle.
And today we're going to talk about our top 5 games with bad names. Now, I don't know about you boys, but I went down this list by picking games I thought were good games, but the name didn't fit the game. Not that the name necessarily is bad, it just didn't fit the style of game that was there.
Mark, you sit first because I've got something on there.
Okay. Right, I went through... I struggled a little with this. I think I've ended up more going down the route of bad ways to name your game. As in, for me, what is a bad... Some of it is just bad game names, but some of it's also that this is just a bad way to do it in the first place.
Yeah, so I was thinking about what makes a good name for a game. Like, how should you name your game, really? And so I've actually come up, I'm just looking up here, just a few things that I was thinking about this. What makes a good name? It should be original, okay? So it shouldn't sound like some other game. You can't have a name that's too similar to other games. You don't want it to be confused with other games. That's one thing I was thinking about. It should be easy to remember, so not too long, and not some obscure word. If it's called Tzolk'in, then no one's going to remember that. So you want something that's easy to remember. It should be easy to spell, because if people are talking about a game, you want to be able to Google it and find out about the game. And if you can't spell it right, then that's so using Y's instead of I's or X's instead of Z's or whatever it is. There's lots of dodgy game names like that, I think. Personally, I think it should be connected with the theme. I guess it's what you're thinking. It should fit what the game is about.
I've just gone down that route, I think.
So for me, that's what makes good names. So bad names are things that break too many of those rules. I think it's okay to break the odd rule there, but if you're breaking a lot of those rules, then yeah, that's what I consider a bad name.
Okay.
Okay. So off we go. We're on to number 5.
Marvellous. It's number 5.
Alright, my number 5 comes from a very silly game. It is a game where you get a toy gun, and it's Pingu Pingu. And if I said Pingu Pingu to you and didn't mention the toy gun, you would have no idea what this game's about. It is a game where you're in the jungle and you're flipping cards over and you're trying to collect gold. And if I flip a card over and it's got gold on it, if I tap my card, I get that gold. If I tap that card, it's got a trap on it, I lose some gold. If other people tap my card, they will get that gold off me, and you're doing that. But occasionally, you flip over a card where the penguins attack, and what you have to do, you have to get your toy gun, you have to shoot the penguins, or you have to cross the bridge and you run across the room, and it's really, really daft. But in the background, there's a soundtrack, and you've got a 10-minute soundtrack. You haven't played this,
No, I haven't. It sounds crazy.
It's great. There's a soundtrack, and you hear you're on this island, you hear these drums going dum, 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 dum. And if you have one of these tasks where you have to go and cross the bridge, or you have to shoot the penguins, or you have to fight the penguin on the polar bear, which is really, really daft. This game is just a mishmash of daftness, which is really fun. But if the soundtrack goes, Pingu Pingu, the penguins have attacked, and who is doing that challenge, if they haven't finished in time, they lose some health. You've played this.
I've played it. I've been tears.
It's been very funny, yeah.
I really want to try this.
Yeah.
But if I said, would you like to play Pingu Pingu with me, you would have no idea what this game's about.
I guess you think of there's a kids' TV cartoon series, isn't there, called Pingu?
It's not spelled the same way though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's Pingu Pingu.
I would assume it's a kids' game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
is it?
It is a kids' game.
Okay, fine.
It's got a gun in it.
And then if you run out of bullets, you have to run and pick them all up and then go back down and sit down and still try and shoot this thing. It's pretty
The thing
fun.
is, every time I say the name, I just think of the soundtrack. I just hear Bingo, Bingo.
Yeah, fit the soundtrack,
every time.
the soundtrack. But there is absolutely no reason why you're on this tropical island fighting penguins on polar bears. There's absolutely no reason for it. So for that reason, I think it's got a very weird name.
Okay.
Okay, my number 5 is... I just don't know how they called it. It's The Game.
Oh,
It's called
yes.
The Game. It's a game in the set of board games, and yet it is so good it gets called The Game, and it has no explanation what the game's about. I mean, it's a simple, relatively light filler of you can't talk, you're placing, there's 4-part numbers starting 99 and 1, essentially going up and down, as in, but you can't tell people what you've got in your hand, and so you're trying to get rid of all the cards, essentially. It's very simple to play, but the fact it's called The Game...
It did have that mystery about it as well when it first came out, not least because we got a German copy, I think, didn't it? It didn't come out in England for a while. So we had this German copy and no one at first could read the rules. So we had these cards and we were trying to work out from bits we'd read online about how the game played. And I think we played it wrong in several ways the first time we played it.
I think we got it wrong about how you can communicate.
Okay.
I think that was the issue. I could understand a bit about how you play the cards and you can go 10 backwards if you have the right card. But yeah, I think this game is so badly named that if it hadn't been nominated for Spiel des Jahres, that no one would know about?
No.
Yes, indeed.
I think that really helped the game become the game it
The
is.
game. That's the problem.
I should have put that on my list. I didn't, but that is perfect for this list because it is just such a bad name.
It's fine for me because I think it's a terrible name, but I'm not. I like the game. It's not. I wouldn't quite say it's a great game. It's a good
Yes.
game, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But that's why it's towards the final. I think it's probably got the worst name.
For a short, light co-op, it works very well, I think.
Yeah.
All right, my number 5 is the Castles of Burgundy. Now, I kind of, in German, I think it's Die Burgen von Burgund, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's like a play on words there. I think it'd be like having the castles of Newcastle or something, if it was translated to English. Which I kind of get, except that when you think about Burgundy, I don't think about castles, I think about wine. So the Castles of Burgundy, the game itself doesn't seem to have anything to do with castles either. So nothing about the name really associates with anything in the game for me. Because it's quite an abstract game. I mean, it's a Stefan Feld game. There's a lot of kind of dice rolling and placing tiles according to where you've rolled the dice, and I really like the game. I think it's a great game. But in terms of the name, where are the castles? Where, in fact, is any theme at all in that game? But I do really like it.
Yeah, it's a good game. I think a lot of his games have just he applies the theme to it late, and this game is so dry that whatever name you gave it wouldn't fit the theme, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But when I listen to the name, it's like the Castles of Burgundy, it conjures up things in my mind. Oh, what is
The
this?
Castles of Mad King Ludwig's got
Yes,
loads of things.
and that's a great name for that game because you are building castles.
Yeah.
But you're really not in the Castles of Burgundy.
Very similar names, but completely different games. for example.
I think, do you put some castles down on the tiles?
I think
some of them are
green
tiled
ones,
castles.
that's right, but-
And they're good tiles, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
I just think it was the green tiles.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, good pick.
Well, I never. It's number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is kind of related to one that came up. It's the Castles of Burgundy, the card game. Okay, partly for your reason of where's the castles, but also this whole the card game, the dice game, just the
Yeah.
thing that's kind of happening at the moment. It makes me think you're basically trying to do a version of another game, but hampering yourself by limiting yourself to cards in this one. And actually, the Castles of Burgundy, the card game is a very nice game. Really enjoy it, but it makes me think, well, wouldn't I just play the Castles of Burgundy rather than this knockoff version almost?
Some games are some game names are definitely too long.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to when the original game, like the Castles of Burgundy, has quite a long name anyway, and you want to distinguish it from that. It's like a variant on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's too long-winded, I think.
Yeah.
It's like Warhammer Quest, the card game. It's a dungeon crawl. Why would I want to play a card game version of a dungeon crawler?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not keen on that sort of thing.
The odd game can be improved by adding dice or cards.
Yes,
I think
Roll for the Galaxy.
Roll for the Galaxy.
I'm not sure if you do.
I do as well. You prefer race, but
I do,
I think
but-
Nations, the dice game, Nations itself was such a long game.
Yeah.
But the dice game just sped it up a bit. So.
It's just been a trend recently, though, hasn't it, to churn out either the dice game or the card game for all the big popular games. So all the publishers have been cranking that wheel.
Yeah, it's adding the Castles of Burgundy to a similar game, trying to make it sell, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, my number 4 is from a series of games that have all got bad names, but I'm just going to pick one. You can probably guess what it is.
Yeah.
And that's Devon. It's actually from the GIP series, that's GIPF. And I like Devon the best, but they're all difficult to pronounce, just random words that have been created. Like, it's very hard to go away and then Google it and find the right game because you wouldn't have a clue how to spell it. It's a series of abstract games, and there's like board, typically, always 2-player, and you are placing pieces on a board to control sections of the board. And they're really good games as a whole, I think. Really like them. But I just feel like the names hamper them a bit. If there's a better name for them, it would help.
Yeah, he's got a whole series. He's got Gift, Von, Tsar, Yinch, Tamsk, Zertz, and Punkt. And there's a new one called Link, but Link spelt with a Y and an N and
Why
a G
not?
and a K or something. Yeah, it's just very daft. That's a good pick.
It does sound like they all come from a foreign language.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a game I've probably played the most over the last year, and that's Magic the Gathering. And a lot of times people say, I'm going to go and play a game of Magic. I'm going to go and play a game of Magic. I'm playing Magic tonight, I'm playing Magic tomorrow. And they miss out the gathering part of it. And so I googled why they call it Magic the Gathering as the thing. I think you don't need the gathering. I think you can just go and play Magic. It's such a well-known game now. Why haven't they dropped that end bit? And I think part of the reason is when you possibly copyright issues, but when you search for it, you need to search Magic the Gathering. If you just search Magic on the internet or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. And when you first created the game, obviously, Richard Garfield wasn't expecting it to be such a massive
He didn't name it Magic. He named it Mana Clash.
Oh.
So Mana Clash was meant to be his game, which makes it. I'm going to play Mana Clash tonight. And if that had been going over the last 20 years, I think that would be a game that fits the name of the game. I mean, I don't need the Gathering bit, but he just he named it Mana Clash, and then he just called it Magic, and then he went down the route. Oh, we're just playing Magic. You mean Mana Clash or whatever? And so he had to add this Gathering bit, and I don't think it's needed now. I think people don't call it the Gathering. I think people just say, I'm going to go play Magic.
It's a Magic tournament on that. You don't need it. Yeah. It's so well known.
I guess the thing with a lot of games have subtitles, don't they?
Yeah.
And most people just ignore the subtitles. But sometimes they're put on there to distinguish them from another game. Like if you search on Board Game Geek, you might find several games with Magic in the title. And when you see the Gathering, you know that's the one you're after. So
apart from now, it's so famous that bit feels superfluous. It doesn't need. They were meant to change it. It was going to be Magic the Gathering, then set 2 was going to be Magic, and then they were going to name the set. But they just kept the Gathering there.
Oh, I see.
And that might have made more sense. That the whole game's Magic, and if you want specific bits of it, you pick the subtext you want.
Yeah, like Magic: The Awakening.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that just feels like it's not needed. I think the Magic is great, and then the Gathering is.
Extraordinary. It's number 3.
All right, my number 3 is a game from French designers, I think, about managing an ant colony, essentially. And everyone disagrees about how you should pronounce this game. So I did look it up. It's supposed to be pronounced Myrmes, or something like that, with a sort of slightly French accent. But a lot of people just say Myrmes or something, don't they? It's Myrmes.
Yeah, I say Myrmes, but you're probably right.
And that's the difficulty. It's so hard to know how to pronounce it. And when you hear the word Myrmes or Myrmes or whatever, what does it make you think of? Certainly doesn't make you think of an ant colony, does it? It's got nothing to do with the game. And I wondered, is it a French word that means ant colony?
Myrmecology is study of ants, isn't it?
Oh, is that where it comes from? I couldn't work it out. It just seemed like a completely random name. And so hard, it just has no oomph behind it, does it? It's very difficult to say. So it's a great game, though. I do really like the game.
It was on my shortlist, and I googled why it was called Myrmes, because it had a Latin meaning. I didn't put it on.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a weird, and it doesn't make you think at all of how the game plays.
Yeah. All right.
Oh yeah, it's me now, isn't it? So yeah, my number 3, I've forgotten, has already been mentioned by this man here. It is the GIP series of games.
Yeah.
They're just so weird names, and for exactly the same thing, googling them or just pronouncing them to some extent. I think they're fairly easy to pronounce. You kind of just pronounce it in your best broken English, effectively, of what you think it is. We all have different favourites of the games, and they're all great games. Mine's probably Yinch, depending what mood I'm in. But Yinch is just, it sounds like a word, but it isn't. And they all sound like they could be words, but they're not.
Yeah.
The Tsar, you think, oh, brilliant, yeah, Romans used to, the Russians used to have Tsars as their leaders, but it's spelled differently.
Yeah. And they're all written in block capitals, aren't they?
Yeah.
Oh, why is that?
Yeah,
There's just no reason.
It's unique. I mean, it sets his games up apart from any other games, but you'll often find a lot of abstract games have weird names. Boku, Abalone, and all these weird ones. But for him to have like 7 in a series, all with weird names, just kind of definitely.
It's the fact that anytime I do these videos and they appear, I have to go to their website, because Board Game Geek, no point trying to search on this. It's easy going to the GIP series site to find the names that it is on Board Game Geek, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 3 is Level 7 Omega Protocol.
Oh yes, I know why this is.
and the reason, my reason for this is because there was a game called Level 7 Invasion.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good. So the second game, that was like a world against aliens on a global scale. Level 7 Omega Protocol is like a miniatures game, a sort of dungeon crawl fighting team sort of based thing. So you've got the same name, but the two games are completely unrelated mechanisms, and one of them's rubbish, and one of them's very good.
Yeah.
So you've released second game, everybody's gone, well, it's going to be like rubbish like the first one, so why would I buy it? It's not even remotely similar. But that's really helping. It's just not helping you. Another example of that is Zombicide Black Plague. Zombicide is a rubbish game. Well, it's not rubbish, but it's not great. It gets very dull very quickly. Black Plague fixes tons of the problems in Zombicide, but I went to it thinking it's going to be not very good, because I've played all the Zombicide. I know they're unbalanced, they work. They fixed like all the shooting rolls and stuff like that. It's a much better game. But you're setting a precedence with your previous game, and I think you need to move away from that.
I wonder how long between the previous game getting the ratings and the new game coming out was there. I wonder if it was
Oh,
just
it's
too
quite a
late.
few years,
I was just too,
yeah.
to some extent,
Yeah.
it might be too late. The Zombies Like Black Plague probably was too late to change it because I imagine they'd gone down the.
And Zombicide's popular anyway. It
Yeah,
might
but
not
it's
be a
still
great
massive
game.
good seller.
Yeah, but still people like it.
Naming a good game after a bad game is probably a bad design.
Yeah, that's essentially what I was going with.
Yeah.
Spiffing. It's number 2.
Alright, my number 2 is a game that sounds like a computer game from the early 2000s. It's a game called Imperial Settlers. And in Imperial Settlers, you think, oh wow, that sounds interesting, that sounds a lot of thing. Imperial Settlers is 100% a eke-out trading resources hand management game. It is nothing to do with conquest or area control, anything. It's to do with cards, and you're putting these cards down, and the game itself is very good, and the name they picked just doesn't feel like it fits at all.
Yeah, that's true.
You've both played it, haven't you?
Yeah.
And the game it can get a bit slow, but it is very, I'm going to swap this for this, that's my go. My next turn I'm going to play this, get 2 wood, that's my go. And you're just kind of eking out resources, trying to build as many cards as you want, scoring as many points as you can, but you're not settling anything, you're not imperialistic, you're not fighting necessarily everyone
It
else.
sounds like it should be a 4X game.
Yeah,
with
but obviously it's based on 51st State. Essentially, Chevicek trying to do something a bit more family-friendly, styling, and change a few small bits. But yeah,
it's a good game.
He did very well with it. Yeah.
I just don't think it's very, very well named.
Yep. So it also sounds very generic in terms of my originality requirement for a good game name. Imperial Settlers. It could be anything really, couldn't it?
Okay, my number 2. This is a bit of a catch-all one. It's like just any game these days that's just named after a location because you give a precedence of it's going to be dull. I'm not saying a lot of them are great. I mean, obvious one's Le Havre, fantastic game. It's just named after a place, and this because inevitably you look at a new list of games and you're scrolling through, and the name has to make you get a thought of it's just going to be a list of mechanisms. But I mean, I think Le Havre, Orleans is another great. I really love the game, but if you just looked at it as a name of a game, you'd think. No.
To some extent, slightly lazy designing. I think you're picking the name because there's no game named after that name, so it's unique and people know the name.
Yeah.
But so basically, my shortlist says any name named after a city: Bruges, Brussels, Murano, Versailles, Mombasa, Istanbul. All the ones Mark's mentioned.
Yeah.
They're all good games, but they could be named after anywhere.
Yeah, Sheffield, Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester.
They don't have quite the same ring to them, do they?
I know, but it's only because we like the continental thing. But it's a bit of a catch-all. So let's go with
Castles of Burgundy.
Yeah, indeed.
They could have just called it Burgundy. It wouldn't have affected the game.
You know it's going to be a Euro game, don't you?
Yeah.
With a little theme. If it's named after a place or a city.
Trading in the Mediterranean, pick a city in the Mediterranean.
It's a massive 4X game that's just got the name of the city, just to completely throw everybody, just for fun.
But good pick. I thought about that. I couldn't pick any individual ones. So I just had it
that was the issue. Yeah, they all seem to fit the bill. All right, my number 2 is Tichu, which is a light card game, trick-taking, ladder-climbing game, which I really like. But when you explain we're going to play Tichu, it's like, teach you? Teach me what?
So I quite like it for that. I'm going to teach you.
It's just such a strange, because it's spelled Tichu, isn't it? And I presume it's Chinese. I don't actually know what it means. But it's very hard to convey anything with the name. You say, we're going to play Tichu, people think, okay, fine, what's Tichu? People just have no idea at all. It's certainly unique, but again, it's difficult to spell. If you say, just look up Tichu on Board Game Geek, it's going to be very difficult to find because most people aren't going to know how to spell it. But it is a really good game, I really like it, but just bizarre name.
I think it's some of the card games in the same sense, like Canasta and Euchre and all these weird, especially the French ones, and this is a Chinese one, just have a weird name that we can't associate. It's not like an English translation where there's just a name they have for this game.
Yeah, because with a lot of games, if it's created in a language other than English, they just come up with a different name for the English version of the game, which is fine. And I don't mind them bringing the name across from another language, but it does make it more difficult.
You have no idea what you're playing when it says
Tichu.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. By Jove, it's number 1.
As usual for our number 1, so we're going to use the Between Two Cities player order card to determine the order we do these. Mark, if you will.
I forgot that one. We have got alphabetical city first.
So Scarborough, S.
Leeds, L.
And Nottingham, N.
Okay, so Jonathan, Mark, myself.
Okay. All right. When you think of mythologies from around the world, you might have Greek or Roman or Egyptian possibly, and you think about the kings or the gods from those mythology, most of them are fairly famous, whether you've got Zeus or Ramesses, whoever it is. But when you think about the Mayan mythology, nothing really springs to mind. So when I tell you about a game called Tzolk'in, which is very difficult to pronounce, never mind spell, it doesn't make me think of anything. I'm not really aware. Do you know, is it a king or a god from the Mayan?
No idea.
So Tzolk'in supposedly the subtitle is the Mayan calendar. It's essentially a euro with a really nice this spinning wheel thing.
Looks
so
gorgeous, yeah.
all the sort of worker placement spots keep moving around the board. And it's a great game, really like it, but it's incredibly difficult to spell. No idea what it means.
It's got an apostrophe in the middle of the word.
It does, that's right.
T apostrophe, or TZ apostrophe. I can't remember.
Figuring out where the apostrophe goes is half the battle with spelling that one.
TZO, yeah.
I think it might be before the I near the end. I did see it earlier.
Tzolk'in, yeah.
But anyway, great game, but just terrible name.
Yeah.
No idea what that means.
Because I thought they could have named it after one of the temples, because the temples have their own specific Tzolk'in, or it's like, they've got specific
They've got
on the wheels, and they are
named
named after the particular, like the triangular temples.
Yes. I feel like there are some names connected with Mayan mythology that would be at least familiar, but Tzolk'in.
I'm assuming that Tzolk'in maybe actually went to the main calendar was my basic. That's purely
possibly.
on I have no idea.
It tells what it is. It just because no one knows what it thinks is.
It's certainly original, but oh my goodness, the spelling.
I guess my number one is another catch-all. It kind of encompasses a lot what we already said. It's basically just games that are hard to speak and hard to. If you can't find a game on Board Game Geek, then I mean the Git Fondue one. I went Lagrange because I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right.
I thought about that.
And so not only can I not sure I'm saying it right, I can't search for the name.
If someone says Lagrange, you think it's got a Y in it.
Yeah,
Lagrange, you think it's got a G in it.
Just if you can't search it on Board Game Geek, it's a failure, and that's a bad thing because so many people are going to use that as a resource. If you can't spell it, you got no chance. Other good ones, what? Zhangguo, Sanwo, Xeno Shift.
Yeah,
it's got a nice, well-positioned Y in there just to fit. Games that put hyphens. Yeah, it's Xeno. It's got Y. Is it? It's the way it's spelled weird though, isn't it?
It's after the next.
Yeah,
there's a Y in it somewhere.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I mean, mine's another catch-all because there's such a. But yeah, like I'll go Lagrange.
Like, you wonder how many games that. So Lagrange is a good game. It's in the top 100 now. It's actually quite high. But I wonder how many games that are good have been let down by this, or just maybe aren't as good as that and have just been forgotten because people just can't remember them.
Well, the other thing that doesn't help that one is the theme and the artwork and everything just feels very bland.
Yeah.
But the game is really good.
Yeah. Speaking of the game, my number one is The Game. I think it is the worst picked name for a game ever. I'll go back to my earlier comment. If it hadn't been nominated for Game of the Year, none of us would even know it, I think. Realistically. It is a nice game. It's a nice cooperative game. You can't talk to the people. I like that in a cooperative game. So, well, you can talk, but you just can't reveal certain information. That's very nice. But call it something different. I mean, you think the game, it's not even bland. The artwork on the back of the cards is very kind of gothic, isn't it?
Distinctive,
which again doesn't really go with what.
Yeah, you could have picked something different. And it could have been unrelated to the actual game in the box itself, but it could have just been unique.
It feels like they're going for that horror movie thing, where there's it's just called The Game, and where people are playing a game and then bad things start happening to them with all the skulls in the back. But the actual game
has no relation.
No, there's nothing.
It looks like almost Jack the Ripper style artwork on the front page.
It's
just not
bizarre. Well, for a light little cooperative, let's go together to solve the puzzle.
It's a good game. It's just a horrible name.
Yeah.
So they are our top 5 games with bad names for different reasons. Have you got any nearly misses?
Oh, shortlist. I do have a couple more from my shortlist.
Mark had his anything named after a city, and I agreed with that. I didn't put it on my list, but there's so many in that category.
I've gone for the 2-player Agricola, which is Agricola, all creatures big and small, because everyone disagrees about how to pronounce. Everyone calls it Agricola. I'm sure it should not be Agricola. And the all creatures big and small is a mistranslation from a hymn.
It's great and small.
It's all creatures great and small, but I think in the German when they translated it across, they translated the great as big. But then it just
a lot of people call it great and small because they think of the hymn in the UK anyway.
Yeah. But like Seven Wonders Jewel, that makes sense. That's a good name.
Yeah.
It's Jewel, 2-player version of Seven Wonders. Agricola Jewel would have been much better, but
I've got 2 that haven't been mentioned. One of them's 5 Tribes, which plays 4 players.
Yes.
I understand why they've called it 5 tribes, because there are 5 different types of meeple in the game. But 5 tribes playing only 4 people, it just clashes.
Yeah.
A lot of people. I mean, there's obviously the new Caverna cave versus cave, which I'm not sure I like. The cave versus cave thing. It's a bit weird.
They're just adding Caverna on to make it
I
sound.
know, yeah.
It was good as well.
And then there's one other that Jonathan Googled on Board Game Geek, and he says, do you know what they actually call this game? It's a game here called Boku. It's a 2-player game.
Oh my goodness.
And then Board Game Geek, it is spelled BOLLOX.
You can pronounce that one yourselves.
Yeah.
Tricarium was another one, just because it's, again, difficult to pronounce. Tricarian, what is that?
Anachrony.
And actually, Catan, I thought, we're so used to it now.
Yeah.
But I remember playing it when it first came out, and it was all like Settlers of, what is that, Catan? How do you pronounce that? And no one seemed to make their mind up on it.
Well, obviously, a lot of time it was. I guess there's two schools of thought of whether it was called Settlers or Catan.
Because we always used to
now called Catan.
We call it Settlers.
Yeah.
Because it was much better than Catan, and then they decided to shorten the name. It's like, oh great, they'll call it Settlers. But no, they went for Catan.
Yeah. But it's that uniqueness. So if you call it Settlers, you mean Imperial Settlers? You mean
I can see it now.
So just calling it Catan means there's no ambiguity. But yeah, I see what you mean.
True.
Yeah, I'd never even thought of that. I just thought that is the iconic game that got me into games. So.
Yeah.
Ticket to Ride, for the obvious reading of Ticket to Ride.
I really like that one.
Oh, I know.
You obviously know what it means, though.
Isn't it? I was assuming it's named after the Beatles.
No.
It's a German ticketing system for prostitution. So
really?
that's what it originally comes from.
I did not know that.
Yes,
Okay.
it meant you could.
Oh dear.
Yes.
Oh dear.
So that does have a slight off-putting.
Yeah. So have we missed any games out? Have you got any games you think are horrible that we haven't mentioned, or maybe that we just haven't played and we'd like to know about? If you have, leave them in the comments below. I've been Steve Raine.
I'm Jonathan Hicks.
And I'm Mo Windle.
And we've been at the table at the Dice Pit Wrestling. Thanks very much.
Bye.